Hi, this is Dan Patlansky, and you're listening to The Gareth Nelson Show.
Okay, we're joined by Dan Patlansky on the Gareth Nelson Show. I'm a big fan of this guy, so it's an honor to have him on the show. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm excellent in yourself, and thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, it's the greatest of pleasures. Firstly, let me ask you, how did you get into music, and what made you get into blues particularly?
It was a good question. I mean, I grew up with parents that were massive music fans, and so I had almost this fantastic education in music just from what they were listening to. And a big part of what they're listening to was the blues and guitar-based music. So I suppose that passion was kind of passed on to me. And the blues seemed to be the most obvious choice of music to start playing, because I felt like I'd listened to it so much before. I felt like I already knew it. So yeah, that's why the blues. And I mean, most of the music I'd listened to as a kid was guitar kind of driven music. Yes. So that's why the guitar.
And I mean, what's your major influences in blues music, for example?
Well, Stevie Ray Vaughan is a big one. Hendrix was a big one, because I kind of consider him a blues guy. B.B. King, Elder King, Son House, Robert Johnson. I mean, also like guys more in the prog world, like Pink Floyd. I mean, David Gilmour has been a massive influence on my playing and my songwriting too.
Yes.
So it's quite a big host of things, but it was mostly rooted in the blues.
And like guys like Eric Clapton and things like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, there's so many guys.
I know.
That you kind of sometimes forget to mention them, but
indeed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was a massive influence on my play.
And play guys that you've played with, or big legends that you played with that inspired you, and moments in your career that you can recall fondly?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the first one that comes to mind is Springsteen.
Yes.
Springsteen at the Johannesburg concert he did. I mean, that was fantastic. I mean, if I'm honest, I wouldn't say Springsteen was, as big influence as the other guys I mentioned, but I mean, he certainly was an influence. And guys like Joe Satriani, who, even though he plays a very, very different kind of style of guitar playing and music to me, he was very hard to ignore as a teenager growing up and being an inspiring guitar player. He was one of those names that you always had to check out, and almost every guitar player listened to Joe Satriani at some point in his career. So that was a very, very inspirational tour, and it was fantastic to get to know Joe, and he was just a really fantastic guy.
And artists that you'd love to perform with, if you had any artists in the world now you could name, who would you want to perform with?
Wow, probably Derek Trucks. I really like his playing.
Yes.
I love his songs. I love kind of the vibe that he has, and he's been a big influence on me too.
Yes.
And it's just out of probably all the the modern blues guys, I really listen to him the most, and would love to perform with him.
And a guy like Joe Bonamassa, I mean, how would you rank him?
Oh yeah, certainly. I think Joe's like one of the most incredible guitar players, and obviously as a blues musician, we got a lot to thank Joe for, because he's really opened up doors and kind of shown you what's possible just doing the blues. And and besides that, he is just an incredible musician. So I mean, I certainly wouldn't say no to playing with Joe.
No. Well, what a pleasure that would be to see the both of you on stage. I mean, that would be a dream for me to see.
It would be incredible.
I remember seeing you at Tan's Cafe years ago, and I mean, obviously, I remember songs like Luca, and I mean, that just blew me away at the time. How would you say your music's changed to now with Perfection Kills? I mean, it's a much more sort of rock-based album. I mean, there are big blues tracks on it, but I mean, it's a lot more rock blues now, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like a massive part of my upbringing musically was classic rock. Like the Zeppelins of the world, and Deep Purples and all those kind of guys, which is just kind of a loud form of the blues if you kind of really look at it.
Yeah, true.
And I think the biggest change for me is I started concentrating far more on the songwriting side of things, and instead of just the performance and just the guitar playing. Obviously I still concentrate on that, but it's also about the song. So that became a focus of mine, which wasn't really a main focus in the past.
I see.
And I think obviously that definitely puts a record in a particular direction. And so I think that could possibly be the biggest change from those those old days to now.
And what do you think of the current state of music, like in South Africa and even in the world? I mean, there's definitely this leaning towards, how can I put it, EDM and hip hop music, etc. A big move away from rock music and blues music. Do you think that that genre is in trouble, as it were?
No, definitely not. I think rock and roll and the blues, especially in like modern times, have always been kind of in a way a niche market type of thing.
Yes.
It's got a very particular set of followers, and that's not just in South Africa, it's anywhere in the world. And the guys that listen to the EDM and the Justin Bieber stuff of the world, I mean, I think those guys will always kind of, those are the guys that probably will never be fans. You know?
Yes,
I mean, it's nothing for me to be concerned about. It's always been, it's kind of always been this way.
It's a niche market, I suppose. Yeah.
So I think it's in a healthy place. I think South Africa, the music industry is not in the healthiest place because there's no infrastructure for live music, really.
Very true.
Compared to other parts of the world where there is a certain formula and infrastructure for you to kind of build on and grow into particular venue sizes and selling a certain amount of tickets, where in South Africa, you go from a small venue to a medium-sized venue to a stadium. And it's very, very hard to jump between the venues.
Yes.
So I think that's one. I mean, only one problem, but I mean that's one that comes to mind. But I do think South Africa's certainly got the talent and the musicians that are at a world-class kind of level.
And how was it playing the other night for opening for Incubus, etc. at that Fort Tracker Monument venue? How did you find that venue?
It was really cool. I mean, it was a bit disappointing for me because I couldn't stay for Incubus because I had another show in Joburg that night, which was booked way before the Incubus thing. But it was fantastic. It was a great venue, cool crowd, and it was a very enjoyable show for me.
All right, so I myself am a musician and I play guitar and also I'm trying to get out there. What would your advice be to someone like me, especially playing sort of rock music in South Africa and in the world?
Well, I think as a guitar player and as a songwriter, it's probably the same thing. It's about trying to find kind of a unique voice, if it's in the guitar or in the songwriting, which is obviously far easier said than done.
Yes.
It's a tough thing, but just from my experience, we tried to break into the UK for many years with no success. And when we released our Dear Silent Thieves album, even though it was a blues rock album, it sounded very different to all the other blues rock albums that were being released.
Yes.
So immediately, just because it had a different kind of production value and a different kind of sound on it and a different songwriting style, it immediately got attention for us in the UK and was our foot in the door, actually, at the end of the day. And it was just because it kind of sounded a little bit different and managed to stand out against the noise, you know what I mean, of all the other blues rock artists out there. So I think uniqueness, which is obviously a very difficult thing to achieve sometimes, is the key.
And how would you say it is compared to playing in South Africa versus playing in Europe and the UK? I mean, are the audiences different? Do you feel there's a different feel for it, different appreciation?
I mean, I think in certain ways, I think, the European and British UK blues rock market, I think maybe the audience is slightly more educated on the music and on the genre.
Yes.
So, they're listening with a slightly more kind of critical ear. So that's probably one difference. But I think there's not major difference between the audiences for me. I think the only real difference is the infrastructure and how things are done there, business-wise and growth-wise for a musician. I think that's what I've really, really noticed, the difference between here and there.
And I see you've got a tour coming up to the UK now. Are you excited for that? Yeah,
definitely. We leave on Wednesday, and we do Germany and the UK, and we launched the album there first, and very excited for it. It's always great to be back on that side and continue kind of growing the fan base there, and we hope the album translates as well as I think it will to the live kind of stage.
No doubt it will. No doubt. It's a great album. I must say I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and we played it quite a few times on this show. So, and always, like I say, always been a big fan. I've had the privilege of seeing you multiple times out here, and it's always a privilege to see you playing live.
Yeah, thank you.
Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today here on the Gareth Nelson Show, and we wish you all the best with the album. And like I say, we look forward to you when you're back in South Africa again.
Yeah, we're back end of March launching the album, and thanks for your time, man, and thanks for having me on your show.
It's only a pleasure. Great honor having you on.
All right, cheers, bud.
Thanks, Dan. Bye-bye.